We're taking a break from shooting in the garage because it's 100 degrees outside, so we're going to do a talking heads video about the importance of military sporterized rifles. So y'all stay tuned. Hope everybody's having a great day. I set the flowers out just for y'all so we can have us a very nice afternoon talking about uncommon rifles and why they're important. So if you watched my previous video about 35 Wayland and why it came into existence and how, we know that sporterized rifles were kind of the standard for the American hunter in the turn of the century and even beforehand. The 4570 was initially a military cartridge, and so was the 3040 Krag. And there's a bunch of other ones that got thrown in there, you know, the 45, 90, 45, 120, 50, 90. There's a lot of them out there. But today, we're going to talk about one that's a little less common. Now, you'll still see a bunch of, at least in my area and a few other areas I've lived in, you'll see plenty of 1903 Springfields that have been sporterized. That was very common. You'll see some Enfields that have been sporterized. That was also common. Even saw an Arisaka once that was sporterized. Sometimes they're rebarreled. You got to kind of be careful with these old guns and make sure that they're actually chambered still for the caliber that they were originally chambered in. So a lot of these guys would rebarrel them. They rebarrel an Enfield from 303 to 30-06. Mausers got rebarreled and the chamber messed with. So they'd have a 30-06, but it was a 8mm projectile, which works out to like a 32 caliber. It's like a 8mm 06 or something. That was something that was a lot more common than I believe we're led to believe. But yeah, so these rifles were taken home from men who had just come home from war. They were used to shooting them. They knew what they did, and then they went and took game with them. 30-06 was probably the most prevalent one we can think of. But this one I have here is from, let's see, this one's 1898. This is an 1898 30-40 Krag. This one was from the Spanish-American War. Teddy and his Rough Riders used it. This rifle was the first smokeless powder rifle to be pressed into service in the U.S. military. So we're going to get it down here for a second. But this one has a sporterized stock on it. I'll attempt to flash the screen up with some military versions. There is one with an actual perfect, I think it's a repop stock down at my local gun store that I really want. And it's got a feature on it that's been welded shut that we're about to discuss. So, but this one's not. This one's pretty original. So you load it here. That comes open. Now, before everybody freaks out on me and the YouTube police come out for safety, these are not live rounds. I don't know if you've tried to find 30-40 Krag snap caps, but they're a little tough to come by. So anyway, these are just rounds with, this is brass cases with a bullet shoved in the front of it. Homemade snap cap. There we go. All right, so they load in there. There's really not much finesse to it. You just kind of throw them in there. Sorry, it went off camera there. Throw them in there and snap it shut. And then when you run the bolt, runs it in. There you are. Your snap cap is loaded. Now, this is a really cool feature about this gun that I really wish moved over to modern bolt action rifles. On this side, you'll find a lever right there. That's cool because I'm gonna try and not let this thing fall on the ground. When you eject your round, set that right there, you see we have another round in there. But it doesn't feed that round. Only when you flip that forward, flip it up, will it then feed that round. As to why that is a feature, or why it was thought to be a feature, I don't know. I can't tell you why. But I think it's a really great feature. I think it's a really great feature to have on a hunting rifle. So, as you know, most places you can't ride. Wait for the airplane to pass. We'll move into the suburbs of Billings. It won't be that bad, my wife said. Anyway, So most states, it is illegal to ride with a round in the chamber. I don't know how many of my push feed guys are out there or whatnot, but it is kind of a pain in the butt to rack your round out and hold it down in there in my fake blind magazine here and push the bolt forward. That's what I do. It's legal to have them there, but not with one in the chamber, at least in the state of Montana and the state of Georgia, my two main places I've hunted. But this takes away all that. You just flip it down, crack your bolt out, pop it in, throw that other round back in the magazine drawer. I don't even know what you'd call it. Slap it shut, flip that back up. You're ready to go. Jump out of the truck or the old Model T, and there it is, and you go for it. So there it is. It looks like a controlled round feed, but it doesn't act like a controlled round feed. It has that thing on the top. So this one is not the best prime example of a perfect rifle. The ladder sight's broken, but this thing still will hit 100 yards. It's about all I want it to do. These, my dummy rounds, are loaded up with the rounds I do plan to hunt with. I'm actually considering, this is a Hornady Interlock boat tail soft point. I'm gonna see if that extends the range on this old girl. And this thing was only pressed into service for about a decade. It was when they were storming a fort during the Spanish-American War. The opposing side had Mausers, which had much better reach, and they were shooting downhill. And this thing probably had a 200-yard range, is from what I read, and they were having a hard time lobbing those bullets up over the ramparts of the fort. So they quickly adopted a very Mauser-like cartridge called 3003, which was, Mauser eventually sued the U.S. government and won. But this one was sort of cast aside. But this, as you can see, this one's kind of been crudely sporterized. The checkering on it is not terrible until you kind of get up here and see it was kind of done a little hastily. Probably just, back in those days, you could go into any place that sold guns and get just about anything you wanted done to it. What I find particularly interesting about this rifle in particular is that the builder must have had some kind of foresight, or this was sporterized rather recently. I'm going to show you why. Well, if we move over with my favorite $2 bill, plop it up here, it's not the best free-floating job ever done, but for its time, that rifle's pretty much free-floated. And it's astoundingly accurate for what it is. I did not expect this kind of accuracy out of this kind of rifle. Now, I'm probably gonna bed the stock, might as well. But this rifle's barrel is free-floated, which was not a common thing. Even the pre-64 Model 70s still had a pin right here in the barrel, in a lot of them. Free-floating was not common practice. I'm sure it was known by some. I really wanted to see if it's in Colonel Townsend Whalen's book, The American Firearm. Is it The American Firearm? American Rifleman. Only accurate rifles are interesting, according to Colonel Townsend Whalen. Anyway, so back to this point of this rifle. It was sporterized for hunting. This is no longer a military rifle. It was quickly replaced. This lever here is still functional. Now, there's one down at my shop that has this thing welded up here, but it has a perfect military stock. So I'd like to go up there, swap the sights, and have this barreled action put in the military stock, and have the other one with this undone converted to military. I'd lose my cool function of being able to jump out the truck and pop the round in and whatever, but it would be period correct. So there it is. There's your general overview of your 3040 Krag, 10 years of service. Krag Jorgensen. Anyway, I don't think I have too much to say about it. Now that all ammunition, wet live or otherwise, is gone, we're going to enjoy ourselves a cheap beer. Purveyor of unnice things. Now, this is something we can really talk about, is like getting into hunting and stuff and not having a lot of money. You'll usually find rifles like these Sporterized in your local shop. Don't go to Gunbroker. You'll find rifles like these in your local gun shops for pennies on the dollar, and they're good rifles. And if you're just looking for a woods gun, and especially in the Southeast where I grew up hunting, you don't need to throw a scope on it. Get good with it. Your shots aren't going to be beyond 100 yards most of the time, especially in the Southeast. And that's a really easy way to get it started. I know at Adventure Outdoors in Georgia, there was a couple of rifles like this, probably 1903s, that the guys just didn't know what they had. And they were in these $100 per gun barrels out in front of the counter. And I picked up a couple like that back in the day and cleaned them up and resold them. So this is an option that I believe is overlooked by a lot of people in the new age of guns, where everything has to come from Christensen Arms or something, which is nothing wrong with those rifles. Those are a great rifle, and if I could afford one, I'd buy one, but I can't. I have to make do with what I have. So make do with what you have, grow where you're planted, have a good time, and maybe just buy them for the collection factor. Anyway, hope you all are having a great day. Hope you all get a chance to go hug your mamas and the ones that you love. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Be safe and watch for bars.